Hellmaster EX. This award-winning system features the first single-engine joystick with digital electric steering and new autopilot capability. See Hellmaster EX in action at a Yamaha outboard dealer or visit YamahaOutboards.com.
The Fishing News is sponsored by these fine partners.
In this week's video fishing forecast for the New Jersey, Delaware Bay region, we have north by northeast winds to contend with heading into this weekend, a few more exotic catches at the Jersey shore, and a full moon to contend with this Thursday. Today, I'm Jim Hutchinson with the New Jersey, Delaware Bay video fishing forecast. Thursday, October 17th, we do have a full moon, but I'm taking a moment or two while I get my favorite spinning reel re-spooled over here at the reel seat, but I do need some plastics because I've been scaling down in the last week or so, scaling down in some of our catches because there has been a flurry of a sand eel bite in my particular stretch throughout Ocean County, northern Ocean County, dusk and dawn in particular. One thing to recommend if you've been using these tsunami sand eels, a fantastic sand eel match, and they don't have to be the smaller ones. I've got the 7-inch and the 8-inch, phenomenal sand eel imitation. But if you're not rinsing these lures on a frequent basis, and you've had these lures that you've been throwing for 3 or 4 years, I would recommend adding a few more to the arsenal. Again, these are tremendous lures when the stripers are in tight on sand eels, especially with a teaser ahead of it. But sometimes the salt can get down there into that plastic body, inside that plastic body and damage the hook, especially around the barb. I learned that firsthand, dropped a decent fish over the weekend. Probably the same thing could be said about all the molded plastics, but especially true with those tsunami sand eels. So while the point looks good, always want to keep it fresh. So this is definitely the time that we know that nothing lasts forever. Salt is definitely going to get into your tackle and make a mess of things. So this is the time you want to check on those trebles. Those rusty trebles, swap them out. Go the inline route for conservation purposes. Maybe try some of the new inlines from BKK or Mustad if you're swapping out trebles on those SP minnows or those mag darters. But get yourself all ready for the fall run because it does seem like it's slowly taking shape here along the Jersey shore as we head into this weekend. One last time, I will point you back to the October edition of the Fisherman magazine. I say it's the last time because this Sunday we're working on November, so sometime next week we'll be talking about the November edition. We are rapidly progressing in the year. But again, back to that October cover, that edition that has Les Claypool, Mickey Melchiondo on the cover, with an October striper from Shark River Inlet. We'll grab that edition, turn to page 28. Shell Karras has a peek inside his fall plug bag, which, yes, it does include those sand eel imitations. It includes the molded plastics from Tsunami, the swim shads, the storm shads we've got. Also, all the plugs and plastics you need to match the bunker hatch. And I do believe that's the tinderbox that is getting ready to catch fire here as we move into this, what is it, the 3rd week in October. We're pretty much on time. I've been predicting a blow up at some point over the last couple of weeks. It's got to happen at some point. There are a few fish, though, to be had, and some good fish at that. In the surf, in particular, with some bigger critters, of course, coming from the north end of the state, matching the migration, right? That goes east to west, northeast down to south, north to south. But here in Monmouth County, a little bit north of here where I am in Brielle, I heard of my friend Cesar Saranza. He makes those C80 plugs, custom plug builder. He got his first good surf fish of the season on Saturday, a 28-pounder on one of his custom C80 pencils. So the pencil popping days are ahead of us as well. Cesar said he pulled her from a school of bunker that got inside casting range for a couple of minutes before the fleet descended on the beach and push those bass and bunker out a little bit farther. But this is the type of action that surfcasters have been pining for weeks, and hopefully gets us set up to make the run into the end of October and into November as well. And at some point soon, the bass and bunker will probably spread out enough that we can all enjoy the action by beach and by boat without getting too tangled up and frustrated with one another. Captain Win said he got on his that first small wave of big fish that screamed across the border in the last week or two. He had his very first 50, taped out at 51 inches. Qua said they were throwing 9-inch docks and metal lips and had 4 nice fish this way. Again, northern half of the Garden State. Think Monmouth County. Ronaldo Mall said he taped out several stripers on the Raritan Bay this week, 28 to 32 inches, yakking around the Promised Land waters on the Raritan using Bobby Reed's Back Bay plug. Speaking of which, Bob Wagner, I got a message for you. You've got that 48.5 incher that you caught and released in the Coastal Kayak Clash. Well, my friend, now you need another blackfish. More on the CKC, perhaps a Dreamboat update as well, back in our virtual studios.
Only one fish weighed in this week for the Coastal Kayak Clash, and that was Justin Ocher's 25.5-inch tog that put him in first place all by himself. Bob Wagner fell to second place with 9 points, and Todd Treyones dropped a point but remains in third place. To be part of the Coastal Kayak Clash and your chance to win this Old Town Sportsman PDL 120 fully outfitted by yakattack.com and other great prizes, you must be a Fisherman subscriber. For all the details on how to enter and the rules, visit thefisherman.com. And now the Dreamboat Fishing Challenge entries for the week. What a shake-up we had this week with New England subscriber Scott Waterman from Canterbury, Connecticut with his third entry and the first blackfish on the board for this division, weighing in at 8.20 pounds, which puts him at top of the leaderboard this week. Our next entry is Long Island subscriber Thomas Luciano with his second entry placing 6th in the Sea Robin category, weighing in at 2.73 pounds. So at the end of the week, the leaderboard looks like this. 16 points for Kyle Kraus. He now slips to third place. 18 points for Ahmed Solomon. Slips from first place to second place. Now here's the big shakeup. 26 points for Scott Waterman with his blackfish entry bolts him from third to first. Remember, check your weigh-in form before leaving the weigh station, especially that it's dated, the weight and length and girth is entered, that it's signed, and that you enter it before the 10-day window. There are 6 weeks left, still plenty of time to enter your fish to win that Steiger Craft powered by Yamaha and many other great prizes, but you must be a Fisherman subscriber to enter. For all the details on how to enter and the rules, visit thefisherman.com. With 3 convenient in-water locations, Waterfront Marine has one of the largest inventories on the East Coast of premium brand boats. Their exceptional service department, fully stocked parts department, and ship store will ensure smooth sailing after the sale. Visit our 3 locations or online.
There was another solid boat fish to tell you about on Monmouth County waters this past Friday, indicating that that first wave of big fish is definitely here in state waters. Dave Wickersham picked up eels at Julian's in Atlantic Highlands to fish the first annual Twin Lights Cup catch and release tournament this past Friday, October 10th. His crew caught and released 47-incher while drifting live eels Friday morning in the Highlands Reach, top slot in the Sport Fish Division. Congratulations, Dave. By the way, congrats as well to Captain Harry Brown for the 48-incher that he caught and released in the Pro Division in the Twin Lights Cup. So, are the only stripers worth catching here in Monmouth County from here at the Reel Seat in Brielle on up to the Tackle Box or Upfront Bait and Tackle or Julian's in Monmouth County? No, not at all. It's just that the bigger fish seem to be arriving, as they usually do, from the north, and that's where you're going to find those big catch and release fish. And I would tell you that in recent years, the most sustained bite in the surf and by boat, folks throwing the swim shads and the plugs and the plastics, it certainly has, from the end of October into November, been in the North Jersey stretch, north of the hidden line that may exist around Barnegat Inlet. But personally, I think that strange rainy spring that we had, that we didn't have as many bunker up in North Jersey as we typically have. I'm wondering how that's going to relate to Young of the Year this year. If there were indeed fewer bunker, will there be fewer peanuts dumping out of the Raritan this fall? And if that's the case, will these bunker schools be spread out and all the inlets producing? Will the stripers spread out into Atlantic and Cape May County, south of Ocean County as well? I know the guys down in Atlantic and Cape May County are hoping so, but there are some fish to be had in the southern part of the Garden State. Captain Dave Scholl at Absecon Bay Sportsman Center has been putting his customers on some outback stripers, some of which are in that slot range. He's catching them on spot. And a lot of folks I know want to push out front and go for those monster catch and release, but scale down a little bit in the outback waters and you can still have a good time and catch quantity over quality, if that's what you... I like the numbers, especially. Andy at Riptide Bait and Tackle in Brigantine calls that outback bite hot and heavy at points. Again, spot or eels have been producing, but Andy says a rubber shad or gulp on a lead head or jig head will get you a fish, or 10, if you've got the tide right. By the way, don't discount the tog action down there in the Absecon Inlet area either. In his South Jersey report for thefisherman.com this week, field editor Anthony Califano quoted Noel with one-stop bait and tackle there in Atlantic City as saying, quote, tog, and even more tog. A bunch of 4 to 6 pound blackfish in the mix there along the Atlantic City jetties at Absecon Inlet. Speaking of which, happy birthday to my buddy Pedro Ildefonso. Spent his 13th birthday with Dad Keith putting a hurtin' on Terra firma tog. That location, if you know, you know. Hit up those Cape May County jetties as well. And again, same report on outback stripers as we get down into Cape May County. The folks at Sea Isle Bait and Tackle said this week it looks like the cold front that we've been hit with this week has gotten the bite going with a striped bass out back. Weather plays a big part, of course, in getting the striped bass run all fired up, spring and fall. But here we are in the fall, we're waiting for things to happen. The midweek forecast from the National Weather Service has us looking at north-northeast winds going into the weekend, which should get everything mixed up just the way the stripers like it, with northwest cleanup coming on Sunday. So that looks good as well. Hopefully there's not too much of a heave this weekend for the folks heading out in search of black sea bass or porgies this week. The head boats, especially local, Jamaica 2, for example, in Brielle, banging on the biscuits, reported very good fishing Tuesday morning with some big sea bass and lots of nice porgies, even though the captain of the Jamaica 2 said things got a little bit slower in the afternoon. So yeah, wind, weather, tides all have an impact on our day-to-day fishing. And forecasting for the weekend action, my forecasting for the last couple of weeks hasn't been solid, but it's bound to happen at some point. But lunar cycles, that's another thing that we have to contend with. They play a big part in our fishing and what's going to happen as far as stripers on the feed. In this week's Open Boat, Jenny discusses full moon fishing and how that moon phase can affect fishing through many different factors, with a few night bite tips under that big orange ball above us at night.
I see a bad moon rising. Or is it though? Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Open Boat. I would have broken out in song there, but I don't think my neighbors would appreciate that. But what I'm referencing is if you're watching this Open Boat on Thursday, we have a full moon. Right now I'm looking at it and it's in the waxing gibbous phase. So the full moon, for a lot of fishermen, a lot of guys don't fish the full moon, and they just don't like it in general. I don't know if it's because they are afraid of werewolves, but when it comes to my fishing schedule, if I have a day off and it happens to fall on a full moon, I'm gonna maybe go. There's a 99.9% chance I'm gonna go anyway. I don't like little factors dissuading me, but like the main factor for not fishing a full moon is if it's a crystal clear night. Full moon is so darn bright that it kind of dissuades a fish from biting at night. But if it's an overcast, cloudy night and a full moon, I'm gonna go. Because the full moon brings other good factors that can help turn on a striper bite, especially during the fall run. Starting off with stronger currents. A moon tide can create strong, ripping, increased current, and it makes the stripers feed more actively. and even during the day too. One of the big things when you have a full moon coming up, you have the best fishing 3 days before that full moon and 3 days after the full moon. So if you're watching this on Thursday, go out and fish after the video. And if you're still watching it on Sunday when it airs solo, you still have a chance to catch some good fish, so go out anyway. But going back to the factors that create a good full moon bite, you have deeper water. Moon tides with high tide usually increase. So the incoming tide can cover ground that isn't usually covered by a normal incoming tide. The moon, you know, with science and everything, the moon increases everything. You know, a sad factor to it to reflect on is when we had Hurricane Sandy. We had a supermoon during that time and that just made everything 10 times worse. But going back to it on fishing terms, it can make things better because it's pushing in water where it usually doesn't reach. So that gives more real estate, like in a trough, for bait fish to flow in and for the stripers to give chase. And of course, the moons create bigger tides and lots of moving water that can churn up the bottom and make bait come up and disorient the bait. And of course, stripers are ambush predators, so it can really turn on a bite quite quickly. And then during the low tide for these full moon fishing phases, they can concentrate bait into smaller channels if you're flats fishing. So the stripers will know to go to these areas and search out the bait during low tide. So if you're back bay fishing on the flats and stuff and you find smaller pools in the channels and everything, try fishing that too, because you might get some stripers that are hanging out back there waiting to ambush some bait. So there's the great debate of fishing a moon tide, specifically a full moon, and why not give it a shot tonight? Try to fish tonight since you have a full moon, giving whatever conditions you have, give it a shot. Fish tomorrow morning too, and the next day, and the day after that. Like I said, these are all good patterns for fishing with the moon phases. There's so many factors that go into fishing between the moon and the tides and the wind and everything like that. So there's a science behind it. So it's good to study these things. But my one tip to you is with headlamps at night, try to get headlamps that have a red light. So this one, which literally just popped off of the headband, we'll include that. We're not gonna cut that like a blooper. So this one, immediately when it turns on, see how blinding that is? That sucks for fishing. That's kind of like the moon. So what I'm doing here with my hand is I'm just covering it. I naturally do that when I put it on my head to go to the red light. See how much better that is? It's not even that bad. So the comparison between those two lights, you go from blinding, which one, can scare off fish, two, tick off other fishermen that are fishing at night, and that's how they find you. They're gonna find you and they're gonna yell at you. And three, it's just annoying. Like, it's way too bright. And when you're fishing in the dark for hours, like, your eyes will naturally adjust to the darkness. So having that blinding light come on, you're basically blind again. And so that's why I try to shop for a light that has a red light. And if you wanna get fancier, that has a green light. But I never use that. I always have it on the red light. Like I said, I will literally cup my hand like this. I mean, that's my hand covered. That's really bright. Like, and then compared to the red, much better. So always use a red light at night. Never use the regular LED light because you're going to screw everything up. The fishing, the people around you fishing, and your eyeballs. So hopefully the full moon and this October season gives you a lot of treats and not a lot of tricks. And I'll see you guys on next week's Open Boat. Best of luck.
Well, I think I've stocked up on enough plastics to get me into, well, maybe November. I'm going to head back to the spooling station now, pick up my freshly spooled Saltex 4000. Let's head west, go talk to George Schauer, our Pocono Outdoors guy.
Well, hey, thanks, Jim. You know, it's going to be absolutely perfect fishing weather. We're having these really cool nights. Matter of fact, we even had frost in the area this week, so it's certainly going to be prime time for that fall bite. Daytimes are beautiful. You get out there, it's still in the low 60s, so fishing during the day is absolutely perfect if you want to get out on them. Now, one of the things, guys, a good opportunity this time of year is getting on that fall crappie bite. You know, they're out there, they get up shallow, they school up on those flats to feed. Get out there with one of those small little Kitex or something like that, a small jerk bait. You can really get on those crappies. Tim Knowles sent me this photo of some crappies he got on during this fall season, so some really good fishing there. Now, you're also going to get in those smallmouth, the bass, the walleye, the pickerel, the muskie. All are going to go good this time of year, and the guys are even starting to share a lot of those brown trout picks as well. So pretty much good fishing everywhere, guys. Just at the prime time of year. It's going to go quick, though. Before you know it, temps will be really low, and we'll get in that weird slow period between around Christmas time or so. So fishing may turn off in several weeks, but let's enjoy it while we have it. One feel-good picture I wanted to share with you guys. We got 3-year-old River Conway. Well, she was out getting her first fish with her pop, Tony Conway. And I'll tell you, this is the kind of stuff we get these kids into fishing early. Keeps them hooked for life, excuse the pun, but lots of good fishing there. And congratulations there, River, on your first fish. Well, guys, I hope you have a great week. Get out and get on them. But from Pennsylvania, I'm George, your Pocono Outdoors guy.
Thank you, Ted. Appreciate it. All set to go. Hitting the water this afternoon. Hey, listen, what George was talking about, the freshwater action. If you don't have a freshwater license in New Jersey, to follow up on some of George's advice, have no fear. You can fish New Jersey freshwater bodies this Saturday, October 19th, without a license, without a trout stamp. It's a good option for you, especially if you have friends or family that don't participate in fishing for some reason. But this is a way for you to get out and introduce some folks to the freshwater opportunities, be it largemouth from a lake or pond, or if you want to get into some of the trout fishing in New Jersey. And that's for you too. If you're only a salty guy, this Saturday, free fishing in New Jersey, opportunity to do that. Listen, we got another message that comes out this week from the New Jersey Division of Fish and Wildlife. Has a lot of folks up in arms on social media. That's the need to confirm that you're not in arrears on your child support in New Jersey prior to getting registered to fish in salt water. Now, some folks are saying that this is just a precursor to a paid fee to fish, i.e. a saltwater fishing license. I will remind you that it is written into New Jersey statute, that's law, that there shall be no saltwater license with accompanying fee in the state of New Jersey. So the only way that they would be able to get a fee to fish in saltwater in New Jersey is by an act of the legislature. That means the state assembly, the state senate has to come together with a piece of legislation that needs to pass both houses before ultimately getting signed off on by the governor in order to have a paid saltwater fishing license in New Jersey. That said, this child support requirement that's now in place for anybody registering to fish in saltwater, well, I got to tell you, it's been in place for literally decades for freshwater anglers and for hunters in the Garden State. It seems that this is thanks to a bunch of yahoos, the same yahoos that are out there this week protesting the bear hunt in the state of New Jersey. Roughly 20 years ago, the Antis of New Jersey were successful in pushing the state of New Jersey to say, listen, you can't issue a permit or a license to somebody who's behind in their child support. So they wanted to use this as a way of stopping folks from being able to getting licensed to hunt or fish. Now, after 13 years, that same process is in place for us with saltwater fishing. So it's just something we have to deal with. Don't forget, you do need to register to fish in saltwater here in the Garden State. It's free. You can fill out that form at saltwaterregistry.nj.gov. But yes, you now have to give your social security number and confirm that you're not a deadbeat. Again, the people to thank for this are the Antis. Thank you. Some exotics still in the mix right now. I heard from Frank at Gabriel Tackle this week, who said that Dylan from the shop caught what appears to be a filefish on the inlet rocks. Didn't tell me whether it was barnegat or manasquan. Filefish are closely related to both triggerfish and puffers, something that the blowfish, something we've spoken a lot about in the last couple of weeks. And young Tyler Casero emailed me again this week. He's checking more species off his bucket list here at the Jersey Shore than most traveling anglers will ever get in a lifetime. Tyler told me he manages to catch some stripers in the surf before school, and then after school he heads out looking for tog along the rocks. Said this spadefish was probably the coolest Jersey exotic he's caught since his summer juvenile Goliath grouper. Like I say, you never know until you go. Finally this week, I never thought I'd see the northern lights, not while standing on the beaches of New Jersey. You've probably seen a bunch of photos already, folks, all over social media. Your Aunt Joyce and Uncle Benny probably sent their photos, their blurry images as well. This happens to be my shot, taken from the beach at Bayhead with the northern lights. Unbelievable. But in the Long Beach Island Surf Fishing Classic that's running through December 8th, in addition to stripers, bluefish, kingfish, redfish, and tog, there's also a photo contest sponsored by the folks at Tsunami Tackle. Here are a few of the classic contest submissions I saw on the LBI Surf Fishing Classic Facebook page this week related to Northern Lights fishing. First of all, Bobby Capri fishing Barnegat Light, zero filters, Northern Lights. He hit the frame with the phone propped on a rock to be able to get that shot. James Fowler was fishing on the beach during this strange geomagnetic storm. And then this one, Thomas G. Smith, surf fishing under Aurora Borealis. Cool stuff indeed. Listen, if you're coming into the reel seat to get yourself all geared up for the offshore run, or just spooling up or getting some of those plastics and the plugs for the fall run, going back to the offshore, the yellowfin bite has been pretty good at the edge, and starting to see some quality inshore bluefin as well when those weather windows allow. Several boats, I know, like Bobby Bogan on the Gambler, the Big Jamaica, down out of Barnegat Inlet, the Miss Barnegat Light is heading out on the tuna grounds in between these weather fits. But in looking at the midweek forecast for the Hudson to Baltimore, I hope next week is going to be a good one. I did see what I'm pretty sure was a giant bluefin just off the beach, not far from here, in Point Pleasant, earlier. I think it was over the weekend. So I know those big bluefin are in close. Whales, dolphins, plenty of bait. It looks like the table has been set for a pretty strong fall run. Hopefully that time has come. Catch him up. We'll see you again next week right here at The Fisherman and thefisherman.com.